Hi, and welcome to Uniblast. For the week of January 12th, 2019, here's the UK's top research. First up, let's look at the top 5 universities. Now, we all know that the earlier the cancer is detected, the better the chances you have. Well, thanks to Cambridge University and cancer research, there's a new test that will be the most comprehensive method to detect breast cancer in women. The new method not only takes the woman's genetics and her family history into account, but also her weight, age of menopause, alcohol consumption, and if hormone replacement therapy has been used. While some of these have a very small chance of causing cancer, when taken together it paints a far clearer picture, and it could help those that have a apparently small risk of cancer. At the moment it's being tested with a number of GPs as well as some practice nurses and genetic counsellors before it gets a wider release. With breast cancer survival rates doubling in the last 40 years, here's hoping that this will increase that all the more. Kids these days, always on those generic cellular mobile devices and whatnot. Oh, no wonder they're all depressed. Well, Oxford University has just released a massive new study that shows that only 0.4% of an adolescent's well-being is associated with technology. The study looked at over 300,000 adolescents and their parents from the UK and the US and found technology was just as bad as eating potatoes, and that wearing glasses had an even worse association. The researchers used a method called specification curve analysis to trawl through the enormous data sets. They also found that there was over 600 million ways of interpreting this data, which often led to the results being cherry-picked. So to move the topic on, they simply developed a new way to harvest the entire orchard, hence the massive data sample. As someone who's bored of always hearing about kids on their phones, I sincerely hope they do move this topic on. If, like me, you're fascinated with the logistics and economics of illegal practices, then the London School of Economics has just started a new journal that might interest you. The Journal of Illicit Economies and Development, or JADE, will be a tri-annual release from the university's International Drug Policy Unit and will focus on a global scale. Unlike other journals in the area, this new one will focus on the subject from a multidisciplinary way and will see how these markets and activities actually develop. This includes looking at the root cause of illicit markets and developing new methodologies to study them, as well as better ways to more accurately reflect their impacts. The journal is open access and you can read all of the articles at the link below. Mark Shaw's policy commentary about what an asymmetrical strategy against organised crime could look like is very interesting and I highly recommend it. Now on to developments in the human body. Had a little too much to drink over Christmas? Well, then you might be needing the University of Birmingham's latest development. Liver transplants are always a race against time, as organs in transit degrade rapidly, but the newest version of the perfusion machine they have developed keeps the organ at the correct temperature and supplies it with the correct amount of oxygen, medication, and a healthy supply of nutrients. Over the past decade, deaths from liver disease have actually increased 25% to 11,000 people, so this development is great news for those who suffer from it now. What's more, those nice people over at the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence found no major safety concerns with it at all. So party on, but party smart. Whether or not those in jail deserve to be there is something I'll leave up to the courts, but Glasgow University has certainly given us some food for thought on the subject. Their new study looked at Scotland's prison population and found that 1 in 4 had a history of traumatic head injury. That's 7% higher than the general population. They also found that having 3 or more hospitalisations from head injuries was also more common. And when you look at the symptoms of brain injuries, it's pretty worrying. They include aggression, impulsiveness, lack of anger control, and a reduced awareness of the impact of your actions on others. The researchers hope this work will be used to find ways to help these prisoners and find new pathways that could stop them from reoffending. So here, check this out. You have a doctor's appointment? Please go to it. The University of Aberdeen has just released a new study that looked at 500,000 patients' appointment histories in Scotland over a 3-year period and found some pretty startling stuff. Those with a greater number of long-term health conditions were more likely to miss GP appointments. No surprise there, but those same patients had a substantially greater risk of death the following year. And it's not just them. If you had a long-term physical condition and missed more than 2 appointments, you were 3 times more likely to die than those who missed none. Oh, and as for mental conditions, those who missed 2 appointments per year were 8 times more likely to die the next year than those who missed none. This research shows just how strong of an indicator something as simple as going to appointments is for premature death. So please be sure to go to those doctor's appointments. Now to physics and engineering. Have you ever wondered what a bacterium sounds like? Well, soon you won't have to. In a partnership between Swansea University and the University of Queensland, they have been able to create a sensor that offers an ultra-precise ultrasound. The sensor has particular applications in biology, where it will allow us to gain a far greater understanding of biological processes. They did say how this was just the beginning for this new tech and did note the current applications for ultrasound, such as within medicine or within mapping space, such as a submarine sonar or unmapped drones. They finally went on to say that his new sensor, which is less than a millimetre across, was so accurate that it was comparable to measuring the gravitational force on a virus. We're all no gutter, but the University of Warwick is back to playing in the stars. Their latest research has found the first example of perpendicular dust disks in binary star systems. Unlike our Sun, which rotates on the same plane as most of the other bodies in our solar system, the double star has a thick hula hoop of dust and gas orbiting at a right angle. Dr. Grant Kennedy of Warwick noted how in single star systems, 1/3 of disks rich in gas and dust create planets, with some being misaligned to their star's spin. And so they decided to go looking for a double star system to see if this so-called polar misalignment was possible there. Well, it was, and their dust disks showed more promising signs that a planet could form there, and he mused about the weird seasons such a planet would have. Maybe Tatooine wasn't so far-fetched after all. The issue of donated corneas that has worsened over the past few years received an interesting development today from Newcastle University, and it involves a little fourth dimensional ingenuity. The basics for this development is that the new corneas are a flat gel disc of stem cells which are then coated in a serum that activates them. The cells then contract up over the course of 5 days to form a natural bowl for the eye. It is that time element that has the researchers calling them a four-dimensional structure. Professor Shay Connon further labelled them as biomachines that can form structures as needed, noting how useful they could be in keyhole surgery, where a small amount of tissue could be implanted and then it could develop into more complex shapes within the body. The team are planning to take this forward and hope to be able to manufacture corneas for human transplants within the next couple of years. Now for all the news from the animal kingdom. The inevitable march of time affects us all, including, it appears, our insect friends. Looking primarily at the field cricket, the researchers from the University of Exeter saw that as their lives came to a natural conclusion, old age did set in. Using a network of 130 cameras, they watched Bug Big Brother as they recorded every hour for their lives for over 10 years. They noted how these crickets that put more effort into reproducing early showed signs of faster aging, such as chirping less and losing more fights. The researchers suggested that we age because we focus on passing on our genes instead of trying to take care of ourselves. But as always, more research is needed. Fans of metal rejoice. Today we learn a little bit more about how to avoid being poisoned by metal, and it's all thanks to a little ocean-dwelling bacterium. Researchers from the Universities of East Anglia, Essex and the Scripps Institute of California examined how the bacteria dealt with metal ions, which are highly reactive and have been known to cause cancer in humans. In order to deal with the toxic side effects of iron, for instance, a protein called ferritin detoxifies and stores the elements within its shell that can then be released safely later on. But this bacterium released ferritin in response to copper, and what's more, the copper and the ferritin never actually came in contact with each other. Instead, this clever little bacterium used the ferritin to catalyse a new reaction between oxygen and iron, which then gave it an enhanced stability against all metal ions. This confirms the hypothesis that there are many different ways for the ferritin mechanism to work, and the team hope to carry out further exploration on the subject. I'm well jelly of the researchers at the University of Southampton who have been studying jellyfish and have come up with an ingenious way to map where they have come from. This map looks at the chemical signals that change depending on the environment the jellyfish grew up in, as well as biological and physical processes such as eating. But another helpful aspect of this is that the chemical markers move up the food chain and can be found in birds' feathers or fish fillets, which shows where they have come from. This process has actually been used before in land-based food such as meat and honey, but has never been applied to seafood before. A very useful thing to know if you wish to conserve the animal, as well as giving us the ability to verify where our food is coming from. Now for history and sociology. In this cold weather, our aches and pains can be amplified, but access to painkillers could be different depending on where you live. In a new report from the University of Nottingham, they found that patients in the north of England were prescribed 4 times as many opioids as those in the south. This has wider aspects for our society as well. The researchers found that there is a direct link between socioeconomic status and opioid use, with poorer areas, and in particular areas with higher rates of obesity and an ageing population, being key indicators for opioid prescription. That makes sense. Why is it 4 times higher? Well, that's the question the researchers now hope to ask, and I sincerely hope they do. There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and not rhenium on a new discovery out of the University of St Andrews. They found within their School of Chemistry what is believed to be the world's oldest periodic table, dating from 1885, only 16 years after Mendeleev revealed his first version. The table is in German, and it does note a German printer who is known to be active around that time, but it is the missing element that really solidifies its claims. Gallium and scandium, which were discovered in 1875 and 79 respectively, are there, but germanium, discovered in 1886, is nowhere to be seen. The table is being taken to be preserved at the university's special collections, and it will be a day at the spa for the document, with treatments such as a light brushing to remove loose dirt, a wash with deionized pH-neutral water, and then a deacidification treatment. The university wishes to know if any others from this time or before are known, so if you hear of anything, be sure to let them know. Cooperation sure is great, and the universities of Bristol, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Leeds and Reading obviously think so too, as they have all come together to give a 4-year report on how pollinators are reacting to our cities. This is the first time that the entirety of cities have been thought of in regards to providing pollinators an ecosystem. The researchers have found that if cities change just a little bit, it could really help pollinators out. Tips such as letting grass and wildflowers grow or managing our gardens more could really help these guys out. Also, there was praise for allotments and community gardens, which saw a large positive effect on pollinators. And if you're not interested in these little critters, just remember that 75% of the world's food benefits from them. So in the coming spring and summer, let that lawnmower gather dust a little while longer. Well, that's the highlights this week. If you want to know more, check out the post on the UK subreddit, linked below. And before we get to the and finally, if this is something you'd like to see expand and grow, please consider donating to the Patreon page, also linked below. And finally, Salford University needs you to look at cute dogs. You just need to go to the link below and see if you can guess their age. They're hoping to be able to gauge the stress levels of our pets. So, for science, look at those cute dogs. And with that, I will say thank you and see you next week.